Welcome to the podcast for and about Colorado Springs. I'm your host, Brittany Felix, and every Monday through Friday I'll be talking about a different aspect relating to the Springs, including upcoming events, restaurant reviews, local business spotlights, media coverage about the Springs, public works projects, local activities, answering your questions about the city, and much, much more. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss any of the updates. And also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can find links to all of those social media accounts at springspodcast.com/social media. The Colorado Springs podcast is proudly sponsored by Elevation Hydration. Elevation Hydration is the only hydration therapy clinic serving Colorado Springs, and they are dedicated to helping you elevate your life. They use intravenous vitamin therapy to help athletes needing a boost of energy or help recovering after a tough competition, people experiencing cold-like symptoms or dehydration from the flu, anyone needing to recover quickly from a rough night out. I'm looking at you, college kids. And just anyone wanting a healthy alternative to preventative care. They have a wide variety of hydration packages to help address whatever your needs are. They're conveniently located inside Lush Beauty Lounge at 812 Village Center Drive, and if you mention this podcast during your visit, you'll receive $10 off any hydration package. To learn more about Elevation Hydration or to schedule an appointment, visit springspodcast.com/hydrate. Welcome to episode 43 of the Colorado Springs podcast. Today I'm going to be talking about the Broadmoor, which of course if you've lived in the Springs for a long period of time, especially if you're a lifelong resident, you know all about the Broadmoor. But if you are new to the city, or maybe if you just kind of have ignored that part of the city and haven't really spent much time over there or done some research, you may not know a whole lot about it and what it offers. You know, obviously if you live in the city, you don't really have a need for a hotel in the city, but the Broadmoor is so much more than that. And the reason that I am bringing it up specifically in the show, and I'm dedicating an episode to it, is because it was recently given a 5-star rating in Forbes Travel Guide for 2017. And the interesting thing is, the Broadmoor has received 5 stars from Forbes and its predecessor publications for 57 consecutive years, which is the longest streak for any hotel in the awards history. In addition to receiving the top rating for the hotel, the Broadmoor's Penrose Room restaurant and the spa at the Broadmoor each received 5 stars for the 8th consecutive year. No other Colorado property received top ratings in all 3 categories. The Little Nell in Aspen was the only other 5-star hotel in the entire state of Colorado. There were 13 Colorado hotels that were named 4-star winners, but none of them were in the Pikes Peak region, and only these 2 were given the top rating of 5 stars. And these ratings are determined based on 800 objective criteria with an emphasis on service, and they do have inspectors that attend all the hotels completely anonymously so that they experience the same level of service and amenities as the average guest would, according to Forbes. And what's especially interesting about this is the Forbes ratings came out a month after AAA gave 5 diamonds, which is its highest rating, to the Broadmoor for the 41st consecutive year. And the Broadmoor actually marks its 100th anniversary in 2018. It has more than 780 rooms, suites, cottages, brownstones, and even an estate house. It also has many amenities, including golf, tennis, a spa, pools, shopping, and restaurants, as well as being a location for several events that happen frequently in the city. And obviously I live here in the Springs, so like I said, I don't really have a reason to stay at a hotel here. I can think of a much better place to go to spend a weekend getaway or a romantic, weekend with my husband to celebrate an anniversary. While the Broadmoor is great for that, if I'm going to be spending the money on a hotel, it's going to be in a place I've never been before. But the Broadmoor does specifically offer packages for things like this. I know that this past Valentine's Day they had, weekend getaway packages. So it's probably especially great if you have children and you do just kind of want that quick little getaway and you don't necessarily need to rearrange your entire life. You just need to get a little bit of a break. And as I mentioned, it is the location for several events happening. I recently went to a bridal fashion show at the Broadmoor, and it was so much fun, and they had a ton of vendors. And obviously there are bars and a bowling alley, and then there's their whole swimming area, whatever it is. That's always fun to go to, especially if you have kids. And they now have wilderness experiences and fly fishing camps, and all kinds of amazing things for local residents to do. But one thing that I found especially interesting was that Spencer Penrose actually purchased the 40-acre site of the Broadmoor Casino and Hotel and an adjoining 450 acres for $90,000 in 1916. I mean, think about that. That is an insane amount for almost 500 acres of land and an existing hotel and casino. What's so funny about this is, though, if you do a calculation of the inflation of our money, $90,000 in 1916 is the equivalent of a little over $2 million today. So that makes a little more sense when you think about it that way. And as I mentioned, 2018 does mark the 100-year anniversary. So while Spencer purchased the existing Broadmoor Casino and Hotel, it actually became what it is today in 1918. And actually, the Northeastmoor and Southeastmoor wings of the hotel were not completed until 1947. So work has consistently gone on at the Broadmoor facilities over decades upon decades, and I'm sure it will not be stopping anytime soon. They're making continuous improvements and constantly adding programs and revamping parts of the complex. And the Penrose Room that I actually mentioned earlier, which is the restaurant at the Broadmoor that has received a 5-star rating, actually opened in 1961. And in 1988, the hotel was actually sold to Edward Gaylord from Oklahoma Publishing. And the walking bridge that actually spans the lake and connects the east and west sides of the Broadmoor was added in 1996, so it has now been around for 20 years. And the new water complex that I mentioned earlier was actually opened in 2001, and it was added to the north end of Cheyenne Lake, and it includes a zero-entry infinity swimming pool, which, by the way, if you have not seen this thing, it is amazing. I think we've all seen the infinity pools that are just typical pools. They just kind of, go off the edge to, what looks like nothing. They're kind of in the air, just a regular pool. But this actually is an infinity pool into a lake, which is just such an interesting effect to see in person. But the complex also includes mountain-like water slides, 2 14-person hot tubs, private cabanas, and a seasonal pool cafe. So it's a pretty epic place to go and spend the day. And in 2011, the Broadmoor was actually sold to, and I'm not sure that I'm pronouncing this correctly, Anschutz Corporation of Denver, and they are now the current owners of the facility. And an interesting little tidbit here, that corporation actually owns the Clarity Media Group, which owns the Colorado Springs Gazette. And if you want to look at a full history, I'll include a link to it in the show notes on my website, but it talks about all of these amazing epic things that they keep doing and keep expanding and keep growing and keep renovating, just like I mentioned. And the timeline goes right through last year, and there are still plenty of things happening. So if you think you know what the Broadmoor offers, you may want to check it out because you may not realize exactly what all they have for you to do as a resident and not just as a hotel guest. So I strongly encourage you to check out the Broadmoor's website to really see what they have to offer, the different packages that they have, and the different wilderness experiences or adventures or swimming pool days that you can enjoy. And I'm going to have links to everything that I talked about today, including the article in the Gazette about the Broadmoor receiving top ratings yet again, and different various aspects of the Broadmoor's website. And you can find links to all of those in the show notes at springspodcast.com/043. And of course, those are the actual numbers, 043. That's going to wrap it up for today. Thank you so much for joining me. And I want to invite you to come back tomorrow for this week's Tasty Thursday episode, where I'm actually going to be reviewing an Indian restaurant this time, so vastly different from what I typically talk about. Thank you again, and I hope you have a fantastic day.